Stop right there. Don't touch that screen, don't scroll past, and don't look away. Because what we are talking about right now is the exact moment a relationship begins to die in the shadows. I want you to take a second and think back to the very last time something felt entirely, deeply off in your relationship. I'm not talking about a massive, explosive screaming match where plates are breaking and insults are flying. Those are easy to see. I am talking about that quiet, freezing, creeping realization in the dead of night that the woman sleeping right next to you is slowly, systematically becoming an absolute stranger. It is the subtle shift in the room's temperature when she walks in. It's the way her laugh sounds just a fraction shorter, the sudden drop in eye contact, or the way she looks at her phone with an intensity she used to reserve only for you. It's a raw gut feeling, a heavy, suffocating knot in the pit of your stomach that tells you the ground beneath your feet is shifting, even though everything on the surface looks completely normal. The absolute worst part of this entire experience isn't even the distance itself. It is what happens the exact moment you try to bridge that distance. Think about how the script always plays out. You finally muster up the courage to say something, choosing your words with extreme care because you genuinely want to fix things and avoid a fight. You gently bring up her recent coldness or ask why she seems so detached lately. And within 90 seconds, the entire conversation is flipped completely on its head. Suddenly, her shady behavior is entirely forgotten, and the spotlight is shining directly on your alleged flaws. You are told you're being too sensitive, too needy, insecure, or that you're just imagining things because you have nothing better to do. You enter the conversation looking for reassurance, but you exit it feeling completely dizzy, second guessing your own eyes, and somehow apologizing just to keep the peace. You walk away with that heavy knot in your chest feeling twice as tight, carrying a mountain of unearned guilt, while she retreats back into her phone entirely unchecked. If that psychological roller coaster has ever happened to you, stay right here. Because what you are about to read is going to save you years of exhausting mental confusion, paralyzing self doubt, and the kind of quiet heartbreak that hollows a man out from the inside. What we are doing here is stripping away the confusion and breaking down the exact, highly calculated psychological patterns that dictate this behavior. Specifically, we are going to dissect the four distinct statements that women consistently use right before they completely check out of a relationship emotionally. You see, when a woman decides to leave, she rarely just packs her bags and walks out the door on day one. It is a slow, methodical fade. She checks out mentally and emotionally months, sometimes even years before she ever leaves physically. During this ghost phase, she will use specific, scripted language designed to keep you confused, compliant, and distracted while she rearranges her life and builds her exit strategy. To survive this, you must learn a completely new skill. You have to stop analyzing the words coming out of her mouth and start ruthlessly decoding the actions she displays in real life. Words can be manipulated, rehearsed, and weaponized to make you look like the villain. Actions, however, possess a brutal, unyielding honesty. They tell you exactly where her loyalty lies, where her attention is flowing, and exactly how she views your worth as a partner. Let's be entirely direct and cut right to the core of why we are having this conversation. This isn't about bitterness. This isn't about hating women. And this certainly isn't about feeding into a cycle of toxic paranoia. Paranoia is reacting blindly out of fear. What we are chasing here is absolute, unshakable clarity. We are looking at the cold, hard data of human psychology so you can make informed decisions about your life. The reality is that the men who get blindsided the hardest in these situations are never the weak, abusive, or careless partners. It is always the good men. It's the high value, hardworking, trusting men who gave everything they had to the relationship. Men who believed in loyalty, men who took her at her word, and men who chose to love with an open heart. Because your natural instinct is to trust and protect, you naturally project your own integrity onto her, assuming she operates by the exact same moral code. That inherent goodness is exactly why you don't see the knife coming until it's already buried in your back. You were so busy being a great partner that you didn't realize the rules of the game had completely changed right in front of you. But here is where everything changes. And I want you to hold on to this truth with everything you've got. You do not have to live your life walking on eggshells, constantly wondering when the other shoe is going to drop. You don't need to become a hyper vigilant detective who reads through text messages, checks receipts, or tracks location data just to find the truth. There is one single, unshakable golden rule that will completely protect your mind, your heart, and your dignity from all four of these psychological traps. It is not a complicated 10-step strategy that requires you to play childish mind games or completely alter who you are as a man. It is one single definitive move. One boundary that restores your frame, completely shifts the power dynamic back into your hands, and protects your sanity regardless of what she says or does. I am going to give you that exact rule before we finish here today. But before you can successfully deploy that weapon, you first have to understand exactly how the trap is set. You need to see the psychological machinery behind the words so you can recognize it the very second it starts playing out in your own living room. Over the years, working as a relationship consultant, I have sat directly across from countless men who were completely, utterly shattered. These weren't weak men, broken men, or guys who had given up on life. I am talking about highly successful, high value, intelligent men, business owners, top tier professionals, leaders in their fields, who could handle massive crises in their careers, but were left completely paralyzed by the psychological warfare happening inside their own homes. The most tragic part of sitting across from these men is realizing they didn't do anything wrong to deserve the heartbreak. They weren't abusive, they weren't neglectful, and they weren't controlling. In fact, they were doing everything by the book to be the ideal partner. The only mistake they made, the single fatal flaw that cost them everything, was that they completely missed the psychological pattern playing out right in front of their eyes. When we finally sit down and trace the relationship backward, every single one of these men looks at me with the exact same expression of haunting regret and says the exact same thing. The signs were all there the entire time. I just didn't know what I was looking at. They were looking at individual moments, isolated arguments, and single bad days, entirely failing to realize they were witnessing a calculated, step by step emotional withdrawal. If you want to stop being a casualty to these hidden dynamics, if you want to permanently stop missing the signs that could save your life, you need to make sure your eyes are locked into this channel and this content. What we do here isn't about giving you superficial dating advice, comforting lies, or generic relationship cliches that sound nice but leave you defenseless in the real world. I am here to reveal the raw, unfiltered, and deeply uncomfortable psychological truths that most people in this space are completely terrified to mention out loud because they are afraid of the backlash. We don't sugarcoat reality here. We pull back the curtain on how human behavior actually operates when a relationship begins to sour, giving you the exact mental tools and psychological armor you need to protect your sanity. It is about understanding the hidden rules of human interaction so that you never have to sit in a room months from now wondering how your entire life got turned upside down overnight. To truly understand this setup, you have to fundamentally grasp the fact that these four specific statements do not happen at random, nor are they isolated emotional outbursts. They follow a highly precise, deeply calculated psychological sequence. It is a slow, creeping progression that operates exactly like a boiling frog. It starts out incredibly small, subtle, and completely innocent. So innocent that your natural instinct is to ignore it, brush it off, or make excuses for her because you want to be a supportive partner. But once that first statement establishes a foothold and you accept her frame, the behavior begins to escalate. The next phase kicks in, and then the next. with each lie layering directly on top of the last one, like building blocks. It creates a cumulative, suffocating effect designed to systematically erode your confidence, blur your perception of reality, and trap you entirely inside her psychological frame. You become so deeply gaslit, so thoroughly confused, and so busy trying to fix a moving target that you completely lose touch with your own logical mind and your own masculine authority. By the time the brutal truth finally slaps you in the face, whether that's through an unprompted breakup text, a sudden confession, or discovering she's already moving on with someone else, the damage is already done. You look around only to realize you have already lost months, and in many tragic cases, years of your irreplaceable time, energy, and youth that you can never get back. And here is the absolute most malicious twist of this entire psychological setup. Even after she has completely dismantled the relationship and walked away, you will find yourself sitting alone in an empty room, blaming yourself for the failure. You will rack your brain wondering what you could have done better, how you could have been more understanding, or where you fell short as a man. You carry all the guilt because she masterfully engineered the entire sequence to make sure you felt responsible for her emotional exit. This is why you must pay absolute, undivided attention to the exact order of these shifts. The sequence isn't just a random list of red flags. The sequence is the actual map of the betrayal. If you know the order, you can predict exactly what step she is going to take next, see through the illusion, and stop the trap before it ever springs shut on your life. Let's cut completely through the noise and expose this for exactly what it is. "I'm just not in the mood lately" is the single most common, heavily utilized cover story a woman tells right before a major boundary is crossed. It works with terrifying efficiency because it sounds entirely reasonable, perfectly logical, and highly relatable on the surface. Life gets genuinely heavy. Corporate stress builds up, bills stack up, family drama happens, and work deadlines pile high. When you hear these excuses, your natural, healthy, masculine instinct kicks in. You tell yourself to be the supportive partner, to step back, give her breathing room, and avoid putting any sexual or romantic pressure on her. You genuinely think you are being an understanding, high value partner by sleeping on your side of the bed in silence. But you need to open your eyes to the raw, unfiltered psychological reality of female biology and emotional attachment. When a woman is deeply, authentically connected to you, outside stress does not push her away from you, it pulls her tightly toward you. When the world out there is chaotic and exhausting, a woman who loves you views your presence as her sanctuary. Even after the most draining, soul crushing week at her job, she will still actively crave your warmth, your touch, your arms wrapped around her, and the protective safety that only her man can provide. She might not have the raw energy for wild passion every single night, but she will absolutely seek out closeness, physical comfort, and reassurance. Genuine emotional attachment naturally seeks physical proximity as a form of relief. It does not completely shut down the circuit of human connection. So, when she suddenly develops a complete zero interest blackout toward touching you for weeks or months at a time, you are dealing with a massive red flag. When she suddenly flinches or stiffens up the moment you place a casual hand on her lower back, when she rolls away the second you get close, or when basic everyday affection like a simple kiss hello starts to feel like a heavy chore she is forced to perform, stop making excuses for her. That is not a symptom of job stress, and it is not a lack of energy. That is a deliberate, subconscious redirection of her intimate energy. Her capacity for desire, passion, and physical intimacy did not magically vanish into thin air. It just completely vanished for you. Chemically and psychologically, the human body is an incredibly honest machine. The very moment a woman begins investing her romantic thoughts, late night text messages, or deep emotional energy into another man, her physical biology reacts to that shift. Intimacy with you stops being a source of comfort and suddenly starts to feel like an act of betrayal. Not a betrayal of you, but a betrayal of the new man she is secretly building a bond with. The new person has quietly become her emotional centerpiece, her mental escape, and her true focus. Consequently, you are suddenly viewed as the annoying obstacle in her way. Touching you, holding your hand, or looking deeply into your eyes starts to feel entirely wrong, deeply uncomfortable, and even mildly repulsive to her because her body is physically reserving itself for someone else. She is not tired, gentlemen. She is actively protecting and maintaining an emotional bond that she is secretly constructing in the dark. To see exactly how this plays out in real life, consider the story of David, a 41-year-old financial analyst who came to my office completely broken and utterly blindsided. For nearly 6 months, his girlfriend of 3 years had blamed her total lack of physical intimacy on brutal hours at her firm and tight quarterly deadlines. David, being a good, logical, supportive man, completely believed her. He took over the cooking, handled things around the house, and gave her all the space she asked for because her excuses made sense on paper. But then the real world data stopped matching her spoken words. David started noticing a bizarre, undeniable contrast in her daily behavior. While she claimed to be far too exhausted to spend 15 minutes of quality time with him in the evening, she suddenly possessed the roaring energy to wake up at 6 a.m. every single morning to hit the gym, something she hadn't done in years. She suddenly bought a brand new wardrobe of tight dresses, spent hundreds of dollars on high end makeup, and her personal social media was suddenly flooded with highly confident, attention seeking selfies. Yet, when she came home to the apartment they shared, she wouldn't even hold his hand on the couch, claiming she was just too drained from the day. That is the exact moment David realized the brutal truth. She wasn't out of the mood at all. She was just entirely out of the mood with him. Her mouth was telling him a convenient lie to keep him quiet, while her actions were shouting that she was completely alive, vibrant, and sexual, just for someone else. That glaring, undeniable contrast between her words and her physical investment is your definitive answer. Watch for it constantly. Once the first shift successfully creates physical distance, the sequence smoothly transitions into the second statement, which is the classic line, I just really need to focus on myself right now. On the surface, this statement sounds incredibly evolved, mature, and deeply therapeutic. When you hear it, you might even feel a genuine surge of pride and respect for her. You tell yourself, wow, she is finally doing the deep inner work. She's healing her past, she's going to therapy, she's growing as a person. And ultimately, this personal development is going to make us a much stronger couple. Let's be entirely fair and balanced here. Sometimes that is exactly what is happening. Genuinely working on your mental health, healing childhood trauma, and pursuing personal excellence is a beautiful thing. And when it is done right, it serves as a massive benefit to a healthy relationship. But here is the critical, unshakable difference between real personal growth and a calculated exit strategy. When a woman genuinely wants to grow inside a healthy relationship, she will naturally and enthusiastically include you in that transformative journey. She will actively share the insights she learns from her books or therapy sessions. She will sit down with you to talk about her new boundaries, and then she will ask you deep questions about yours. She will read a book on attachment styles or relationship communication and say, hey, I found this incredible chapter. Let's talk about how this directly applies to us so we can build a better future together. Authentic, real growth within a bond is always collaborative. It is transparent, it values team building, and it naturally pulls a couple closer together because both partners are leveling up at the exact same time. But when her sudden desire for self focus requires total, absolute isolation from you, you are looking at an entirely different animal. When every single gentle effort you make to be a part of her new journey, to ask about her thoughts, or to attend a seminar with her is met with cold resistance, defensive anger, and emotional walls, That is not self care. That is self separation. She is not trying to heal her life with you. She is actively, methodically building a brand new, independent version of herself, one that intentionally, systematically excludes your presence. She is curating a lifestyle, a mindset, and a new social circle where you simply do not exist, intentionally creating a massive emotional chasm. She does this so that when she finally makes the physical move to step out of the relationship or break up with you, she can comfortably use the pre built narrative to tell herself and her friends, I didn't do anything wrong. I just completely outgrew him on my journey. The most manipulative and psychologically damaging part of this entire shift is that she will skillfully weaponize the language of personal growth to make you look like the bad guy. The moment you ask a normal question about her sudden distance or express a natural human desire to stay emotionally connected to your partner, she will instantly flip the script and make you feel intensely guilty for even asking. She will confidently look you in the eye and label you as controlling. She will tell you that you are being entirely unsupportive of her happiness, that you are suffocating her potential, or that you are actively trying to hold her back from becoming her highest self. She takes your completely healthy, loving desire for mutual connection and masterfully reframes it as toxic proof that you do not respect her female independence. She uses the shield of self actualization to make her emotional neglect look like a virtue, while making your desire for a real relationship look like a character flaw. She has completely weaponized self growth against you. Take the case of Chris, a 46-year-old man who runs a highly successful auto repair shop. He came to see me dealing with this exact excruciating pattern. His girlfriend of 4 years suddenly started talking nonstop about healing her inner child, breaking free from past programming, and finding her true, authentic self. Chris, wanting to be the ultimate supportive partner, backed her 100%. He listened to her talk for hours, cheered her on, and even completely paid out of his own pocket for expensive weekend spiritual retreats and self help workshops that she desperately wanted to attend.